welcome in to Views from the Sideline. I'm your host, Chris Pappas. Right next to me is Joey Tysick, and we're here on Orion Neighborhood Television. Joey, talk to the people.
What's up, people? Episode number 1. We're finally doing it. We are doing a podcast, and we get to talk about basketball, both of our favorite subjects.
That's right. We're on the air. We're live. We're ready to dive into basketball around the great state of Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
What do you want to jump into first, Joe? What's the call?
I think we need to talk about college basketball because Big Ten is about to go into their conference schedule. Michigan State is number 1 in the nation. Nobody's talking about it. How does nobody talk about Michigan State when they're number 1 in the nation?
It's because you're not Duke. You don't have the following.
But still, like...
I know. I understand that.
Granted, they got the number 1 seed because Villanova lost to Butler. But it's got to be worth something. They lead the country in assists. They're at almost 22 a game. Okay, yeah, they have some turnover problems. That's like one of their biggest problems. But they have a young guard in Cassius Winston. They have Miles Bridges. They got Jermaine Jackson. They're all young guys. So obviously, they're going to have some turnovers.
Forgot about the big man. Nick Ward.
He's my favorite.
Can't forget about that man.
Nick Ward is a stud, and he is underappreciated on an underappreciated team. Everybody always talks about Miles Bridges this, Miles Bridges that. Yeah, we're thankful he came back. But Nick Ward, when he's in the game, is efficient. He gets rebounds. He works. And I think he's the best player on the team.
I think he brings that little bit of nastiness to that team that they need. And that's something that great teams, whether it's college or pro, they always seem to have. You have that guy that's just going to hit you and doesn't care.
Yeah, he's an edgy guy.
Exactly. And I mean, they had that big loss to Duke early on.
Right.
And
but Grayson Allen lit them up.
That was just a loss by Grayson Allen himself. He took over that game.
Yep.
But then you rattle off 14 straight wins. You have big wins over top 10 teams like UNC and Notre Dame at the time, like you were talking about before the show. What do you see about this team kind of bouncing back and kind of reclaiming that number 1 seed? What do you see for them going forward?
That's definitely a good thing. Going into conference play, especially, you want to kind of be at your strongest, be peaking, which Michigan State is doing now that they've moved into number 1. They bounce back from that early loss to Duke, like you said. They go on and beat UNC and Notre Dame, which are big wins. And they're just kind of firing on all cylinders right now. And to see a resiliency out of this team is great headed into their Big Ten conference play, especially with the Big Ten not being as strong as they have been in years past. I think they'll be a little bit more of a dark horse conference this year, that they can still make some noise, but they're not going to be talked about as much. And Michigan State's really their only true test is Purdue. And Purdue has a big man at their center position who's over 7 foot. He's going to cause some havoc.
Yeah, he's going to cause them some problems. Like you said, I mean, their biggest game left on the schedule is probably Purdue. Games to keep an eye on. I mean, you have at Ohio State, at Maryland, at Minnesota, which could be a trap game, at Northwestern, and then you come home to play Michigan. I mean, your schedule's not looking too painful for you, and that really is setting up Michigan State for success going forward as we head towards March Madness.
Right, yeah, definitely. They have some tough road games, but again, those will be tests for a young team, and they get to play Michigan at Breslin, which is a big deal. They don't have to go to Chrysler, where the atmosphere is a little bit different. Having a home game for that big of a rivalry type of game is great. So I think they are in the driver's seat for the Big Ten.
And talking about Michigan here, I mean, the Wolverines, they've had a solid start to the year. They struggled early on within the first couple games. Losses to LSU, UNC, and Ohio State. But they're 13-3. They've won 5 straight. Their last game coming against Iowa, big-time win. I know you don't think it's big time, but a win's a win in conference play.
True,
so.
That's true. No, I mean, it's weird because I say that Michigan is kind of struggling, and granted they're 13-3. I think their only bad loss actually was LSU. They lost to UNC, which is acceptable, and Ohio State's looked like they're gonna kind of get back to their normal winning ways. But I thought that Duncan Robinson was gonna be that guy, the guy at Michigan, especially when he came in, probably his best year. And now he's just not as good as I thought he would be. He's great. He's a great player.
He's
Don't get me
solid.
wrong, but he's like the third option on this team, and I thought he would be more of a scorer.
If the third option, I mean, you have a couple
Right,
other
that's
guys
true.
there too. You have Mo
Yeah.
Wagner, Charles Matthews, who's having a huge year for
Yep,
Michigan,
mhm.
and then guys like Abdul Rahman can still get you buckets on the
Yeah,
offensive
he's a great
side.
two-way player.
So I mean, you're not understating it. Duncan Robinson really needs to probably step up here for Michigan if they're going to make any sort of push for tournament play.
Right. You really need that shooter.
You do.
Like knockdown shooter. Yes, the whole Michigan offense is run around shooters, so that's not really a problem. But he is one of those guys that is lights out when he gets going.
Yeah.
So he, to me, is a key factor for this team. But yeah, you talked about Wagner. I think he's the best player on this team. He hasn't played like it as much lately. But,
He's battled some injuries too.
Right, yeah, but he can get there. Abdur Rahman, great two-way player, high energy guy. And then you touched on Charles Matthews, my big breakout guy that I actually didn't even know anything about, which is weird. So he's averaging 16 points a game. He's a big guard, shooting almost 40% from the three.
That's huge. That's huge, especially for this offense.
And then you have a guy like Jordan Poole who is developing at a incredible rate. And he's another big guard that can shoot the ball, but he's high energy. He's got good moves. I mean, Michigan looking pretty good going into conference play. And like I said, I say they're struggling now, but going into Big Ten conference, they could come out in that top 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Right with Ohio State and maybe Minnesota.
Who would have thought we'd be talking about Minnesota as one of those top teams? That's crazy to me.
Minnesota's become a pretty good basketball cultured program. But I don't know. The Big Ten is going to be pretty interesting. Like I said, it's not as strong as it has been in the years past. Michigan State levels above everybody else. But that next tier will be really interesting to see. So I think the Big Ten is going to be pretty exciting. So now let's move on to probably like the third favorite team in the state. The Oakland Golden Grizzlies.
My Grizzlies, baby.
I know they're your team.
I mean, let's talk about some Oakland here. Some Oakland basketball. 9-6. They're 5th in the horizon right now. It's going to be an uphill climb if they're going to take the top spot by the end of the season. Likely not going to happen. They're probably going to have to rely on tournament play to get any chance at a big ticket to the big dance. So we'll see how that goes. But they've had some great production out of their seniors, Kendrick Nunn and Jalen Hayes. Those guys have been tremendous for Oakland and for Greg Kampe in that offense. Nunn's averaging almost 26 points per game, 4 rebounds a game, 4 assists. And then you have Jalen Hayes, who's at 20, almost 9 rebounds a game, and 2 assists. And then you throw in a guy like Martez Walker, who can give you double-digit scoring on any night. And Oakland's got their own version of the Big Three in their Horizon Conference. So
yeah, and that might be their only issue.
Yeah,
is that they're pretty top heavy.
Definitely.
But yeah, Jalen Hayes and Kendrick Nunn, the senior leadership for that team is key. I talk about it all the time. When you go into tournaments, you want senior leadership and you want guys that can score. You want 3-point shooters. You want to stretch the floor. They have that senior leadership. So going into the Horizon League, they should be pretty good. They had a tough schedule early on already, and they sit at 9-6, which isn't great, but they played at Syracuse, at Kansas, at Eastern, and then they played Michigan State at Little Caesars, which those are all super high quality teams.
And that was a fantastic game.
Yeah, and they had a chance to beat Michigan State. So you take those 4 games away, they're 9-2.
Yeah.
And the Horizon League, it's one of those top heavy kind of leagues. It's not great, but the competition's pretty good. And OU could do some damage. Obviously, they'd have to win the whole Horizon League to even get a chance at a big ticket. But it's out there. There's a chance that they could do it, and I really hope they do, obviously.
Yeah, and I mean, let me just break down the quick standings for you here for the Horizon. We got Wright State at number 1. We have Northern Kentucky at 2, Youngstown at State at 3, and then Green Bay rounded out top 4, and then Oakland's right behind there. And that Green Bay, they're a nudge above Oakland because they beat Oakland 80-79 right before the new year. So that was a big loss for Oakland, for the Golden Grizzlies. So we'll see what happens down the stretch there. What's another team you want to talk about here around the great state of Michigan.
Oh, we got to talk about a couple of the other smaller conferences. So CMU having a great year. They are 12-2. Kind of a surprise. They lost their biggest players from last year who could score 30, 40 points a night if they wanted to. It was incredible. So I thought they were going to be nothing, but they've shown that they're just as good. They lost to Michigan by 7, and their other loss, they lost to Southern Utah by 6, and they shot really bad in that game. So that game, you can't even take it away. They're 12-1. That's pretty good. Granted, yeah, they're in the MAC. It's not a good conference, but they have balanced scoring. They kind of have 3 guys that are 10 to 15 range, and then a couple 8 or 9 points a game guys, and they just have a solid, balanced offense. Their test is going to be they get to play Western twice and Eastern twice. So those are kind of a rivalry game. So that'll be a good check for them to see where they're at just because of the nature of those games. But the only other problem they might have is Bowling Green, who beat a Florida Gulf Coast team, which...
Dunk City.
Exactly. They've made the tournament multiple times. They're always kind of a scary team. So for Bowling Green to beat a team like Florida Gulf Coast is a little bit surprising. So that might be another tough one for CMU. The only issue being CMU is in the same boat as OU. They're in a small conference. They're going to have to win their
conference
tournament.
Yep.
They're going to have to go far and above showing that they are deserving of a big ticket. And it'll be hard, but obviously I hope that they can do it.
Yeah, we'll see. Central's set themselves up for success. But let's kind of move on here. I want to talk about what the people want to talk about here, Joe.
The people being us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool.
Detroit Pistons, that first half, they closed 2017,
Woo.
and they open up 2018 with a nice meaty L in South Beach. So, I mean, let's break this down real quick. I mean, they started strong, 14-6. What do you see from them moving forward? What did you see from them in the first half to give you any sort of optimism or nothing at all?
Winning games. That was my biggest surprise. I thought this team was going to struggle, and they proved me wrong, and I'm very glad that they have. I'm a big Pistons fan. I try to look at it as non-biased as I can, and I thought they were going to be bad, and they're great. They are a good team. I don't know if they can get out of the first round of the playoffs. I'm hoping they can, but
likely not.
Right, I'm not sure. But they had a great start to the season. They had big wins against Golden State, Boston, Minnesota. They beat twice. The Thunder, San Antonio, and they even came over some adversity of having a big all lose streak. And a lot of those games were close. They played teams like Washington, Philadelphia, San Antonio, Milwaukee, Golden State, and Boston. So dropping those games isn't that big of a deal. Yes, it hurts to lose them in a row.
Yeah.
But they've shown that they can bounce back. And they're a very resilient team. They've come back from a lot of deficits, and I don't know how they do it, but they do it.
I mean, the most impressive to me was, at Golden State, you're down double digits in the second half. You come back and pull out a game at Oracle. That put the Pistons on the map to the national media early. And then you're down big in Oklahoma City, who's starting to turn it around a little bit now.
Right.
They come back, take that game. They start off strong, 14-6. That 7-game losing streak, yeah, I get there it was tough opponents, but if you're looking for any type of buzz for a Detroit team, all that buzz was gone. It was gone after the 7-game losing streak. No one's talking about them anymore. They're right on that brink of playoff or bust. I believe they're 6th seed right now, 20-16. But they had such a buzz about them early on. It stinks to see that all of that is kind of gone for null now.
Right. And I mean, a part of it is injury. We saw Avery Bradley come back, even in a losing effort. But Reggie Jackson's hurt. Stanley Johnson's hurt. John Lure's hurt. So they've kind of had to battle through some things, and they're still playing all right through all that adversity. And like I said, it's good to see Avery Bradley back last night. That game was rough, to say the least. That should have been a win, but
Miami shot the ball out of their minds last night.
Right, and they pretty much just exposed the Pistons. It's exactly what they've struggled with all season long. They can't guard a stretch four. And yeah, Anthony Tolliver's played pretty well. But when you get somebody that is just
So elite
a-
at catching and shooting from that perimeter.
right, and I wouldn't even call Kelly Olynyk that guy.
He
but,
was elite last night.
right, he was out of his mind last night. But that is what they've struggled with. They've also struggled with, they let Kelly Olynyk get 13 rebounds. They struggle with offensive rebounding. That's their biggest issue. And even though they have one of the leading rebounders in the league of Andre Drummond.
He's the leader in offensive rebounding.
Who did not play last night.
Yep.
We'll take that into an account. But they got exposed a little bit, and that makes me a little bit nervous. So to see Avery Bradley back was nice, but we still have the issue of Reggie Jackson being out. Now,
that's right. It is an issue.
I like that Reggie Jackson is out because we get to see more of what this team is and who they are and what they can do. Who do you think steps up for this team in light of Reggie Jackson being out?
I mean, Ish has already shown that he is stepping up, and he is that guy to kind of carry the load for Reggie. But a guy that's done a job that I did not even see happening was Dwight Bikes, two-way guy from Grand Rapids. He's been up playing for the Pistons for the last 2 games as they kind of dropped Langston Galloway out of the rotation at backup point guard. Bikes has been solid. He's been giving them great minutes, 14 points, 4 assists last night in 17 minutes. You can't ask for much more for a backup point guard. Now, will that contribute throughout the season, throughout Reggie's injury? I don't think so. I think they're going to have to find another way to plug that hole.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But as of right now, I think it's Dwight Bikes that's stepping up. And Luke Kennard, hopefully he can kind of carry some scoring load.
That's my Piston right there, Luke Kennard.
Should have been Donovan Mitchell, but...
Hey, well, don't talk about that.
All right. We don't talk about that.
Not here.
Not on this show. Not here. But anyways, yeah, and Andre Drummond's going to have to really be that hub that he was when he gets back from his rib injury. Be that hub for the offense. Dribble handoffs to Avery Bradley. Dribble handoffs to Tobias Harris. And maybe Stan should incorporate more of that Tobias Harris, Andre Drummond pick and roll. That's been successful.
I saw a stat the other day. Did you know that Tobias Harris leads the league in off-ball screens?
Does he really?
And he is like set. I think the number was 100 more off-ball screens than the next player.
That's pretty impressive.
And I think Andre Drummond is right up there in that list. So the Pistons have changed their offense.
They're more of a
this
motion
year,
offense,
which is kind of nice, and it seems like it's working.
And honestly, that probably helps the Reggie Jackson injury because you're not so reliant on that pick and roll between Reggie and Andre.
Right.
So.
That's what I like is that we get to see more of our balanced offense. I still think Luke Kennard needs more clock. I know it's kind of tough. We're pretty guard heavy right now. Guard heavy as in we don't know who the heck we're gonna use.
I mean, Langston Galloway got a DNP last night.
Exactly,
that
and he was a big signing, and he's not playing.
Yeah,
but I think Ish Smith. I mean, he's been in the role before, but he looks comfortable as a starter. Him and Andre get along good. The thing that I like about Ish Smith is that he has fun. Like he's out there playing and he has fun. You saw the fake layup where he threw it to himself. That was playground stuff right
awesome.
there.
That was
so
awesome.
That was cool. Yeah, the Pistons are going to struggle a little bit. They're going to have an identity crisis without Reggie Jackson, but it lets these other guys step up. Reggie Bullock being another guy.
I was going to talk about him, yeah.
I thought he was going to be bad on this team, and I mean, we've had him for a little while, and he's never really done anything, and now all of a sudden he steps up, and he's had a couple good games.
Yeah, and he's kind of built on a couple of good games here. He had a great one last night against Miami. Unfortunately, it was a loss, but Bullock's been shooting a hot ball from deep lately, which is huge, especially for that offense, and I would have loved to see if Reggie Jackson would have stayed healthy, how well that offensive and that starting unit would have been with Bullock spreading the floor with what Stanley Johnson couldn't do and shoot those perimeter threes.
Yep.
And Bullock's still he's a solid on-ball defender. He can guard a good perimeter player and get into him a little bit, which we saw last night. But Bullock's huge. He's been a huge contribution for this team, and he's taken a lot of that scoring load off of what was Reggie Jackson was providing. So that's big for this team going forward. We'll see. As long as they have a tough schedule coming up, they got some big games. Hopefully they can get out of here with a winning record. I'm not so sure they will. It's going to be tough. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they'll finish with a winning record for sure. Yeah, I don't know. They're at the 6th sixth spot in the East right now. I think they're going to stay there. They might flip-flop with Milwaukee depending on how they adjust to all their injuries and what happens when they come back from injury. They have a little bit of a tough schedule. They still have Cleveland 3 more times. They have Toronto 3 more times. But the most of their schedule is pretty much smooth sailing, or at least games that they should win, which this year, I don't know. The Pistons have kind of been really inconsistent at times, but games that they should win either way.
Definitely. They've beaten teams they have no business beating in their arenas, and then they'll flop out against Philadelphia
lose to
at
Orlando.
home. Yeah, Orlando, Dallas. So that's huge question marks. It kind of just makes you wonder, is Stan getting these guys ready to go? I mean,
yeah, he's got to be on the hot seat for sure. He
even if you make the playoffs.
Right. I think he's done well. But you're right. The talent pool is good, not great. And some of the signings are a little bit odd. And I know it's tough with the money going up. So it's kind of hard to get big name guys, because once you get the big name guys and they get all that money, you got to settle for guys like John Lewis.
They didn't settle for John Lewis. They paid him big bucks.
Well, that's the problem, is that these subpar players
getting big money
are going to get paid, because after the A-tier players get signed, they got to go to the B-tier, and that's just kind of where the Pistons franchise is right now. And for some reason, Stan can't get it done in the draft either. That's a big.
Oh my!
That's
Let's
a big
not
question
talk
mark.
about that. Let's not.
And we're not going to mention this year's draft, but even years prior,
should we even mention years prior?
We've had issues with that too. Maybe a guy named Devin Booker. I don't know. That could have been a thing, but we don't talk about those kind of things around here. So yeah, Stan. As much as I like the guy, I also don't like the guy. So.
See, I have nothing really against him. His in-game rotations can be questionable, but it's more so the managing of the roster is really my biggest
him being
issue.
the GM side of it.
Exactly.
Seems like it's not his thing, even though he wanted it.
Exactly. I know he wants total control, and I totally get that, but it just hasn't really worked out. One guy that I think has really taken a step for this team, though, kind of moving forward, and as we get closer to the All-Star game, a potential Piston as an All-Star, Andre Drummond.
Potential.
Do you think he's returning to the All-Star game in LA this year?
Man, I hope so. I want some Pistons.
Hope?
I want Pistons at All-Star weekend. I don't want Drummond in the dunk contest.
That was awful.
But I want him in the All-Star game. He deserves it. He's one of the best rebounders in the league. He's stepped up his free throws. Crazy percentage increase. He's played a little bit better defense this year, which I thought was his big issue. And, he's just looked better overall. And I'm just a little bit nervous that he might get Dame Dollard, and he's going to get snubbed. I'm actually concerned. And because obviously he's not in that top 5 group of players. So after he's out of the top 5, does he fall in the next best 7 in the Eastern Conference? I don't know. And it's up to the coaches. It's not up to anybody else. The coaches get to choose those reserve roles. And I look at guys like Joel Embiid, Kristaps Porzingis, who are loved by the media. And I don't know if that's going to play a part into the coaches' minds that they're like, oh yeah, Joel Embiid, Kristaps Porzingis, people are talking about him. Maybe we should pick them to our all-star team. I don't know. I hope not. And you look at guys too, like Kevin Love is having an outstanding season, really quietly, but he's having a great season.
Cavs are going to get 2 all-stars.
Crazy thought here too, but the way Aaron Gordon has played is actually all-star caliber. I know he's on the Magic.
Joe, I need you to stop there right now.
I'm just saying, if you just look at statistics,
there's more to basketball than just statistics, Joe.
And then, or if you go just by name, Dwight Howard, he's not the Dwight Howard from the Orlando Magic. Don't get me wrong, but he's had quality numbers. His turnovers and free throws have always been an issue, so that's normal. But he's kind of looked like he's turned back the clock a little bit. But he's a big name. He's a personality. He's a guy that when you think of big men, he comes to your head. So I don't know if that plays a factor in these coaches' minds, but I'm just a little bit concerned.
No, see, I understand that concern, but I feel like it plays more to Drummond's benefit that it's the coaches voting for these last 7 spots
Right.
because
Oh yeah, if it was fan voted, he wouldn't. Make
there's
it.
no chance. There's no chance. But coaches know who they have to get their game plan ready for when they're playing Detroit. And who's that guy that's going to be on top of a coach's mind? It's going to be Andre Drummond. They
Right.
run their offense through that guy. He is the best offensive rebounder in the NBA, and he has been for the past 4 years. I mean, let me just run down the numbers here, Joe. He's averaging 14 points per game, which is a little bit lower than his career high. A career high 15.2 rebounds per game. Career high almost 4 assists per game. And then a career high 62% from the free throw line. That's huge improvements. And I feel like coaches now are like, okay, we can't foul this guy anymore. That's a huge improvement for the Pistons. He can be in the game in the fourth quarter, which can't be said for years past. And I think that's going to play a role. That's why I think Andre Drummond will be an all-star this year. I'm going to book it. He's there. But there's definitely some concern, and I completely understand your side of things.
Right.
Now let's kind of move forward here. How do you think the Pistons finish up 2018? I mean, it's a new year, Joe. New year, new Pistons, right?
I guess, yeah. I don't think much is going to change. Actually, though, I don't think it's going to be much of a new Pistons. I think it's going to be about the same. They're going to kind of stay where they are. Hopefully, they can get even the thing about the East is as close as it is, competitive as it is, that makes it good going into the playoffs. If you're a lower seed, you can always make an upset. Especially if they can make it to, let's see, the 6th seed. Yeah, the 6th seed. As long as they don't have to play like Boston or Toronto.
See, I would rather play Toronto than Cleveland. If you're playing Cleveland, there's a guarantee.
Yeah,
I think you have to avoid those bottom 3.
Yeah, I guess it's all 3.
I mean, Toronto.
I guess we could match up better against Toronto.
And Toronto has usually struggles in those first round series.
For sure, okay. So for sure, you don't want to play Boston or Cleveland.
Yeah.
Toronto's kind of a toss up. But if you get anywhere else, you got to play maybe Washington, which they're kind of an up and down team. Bradley Beal could go off for 50, but
it's star power. But
right.
You're not playing LeBron James.
Yeah, we know what you're getting. There's not, and it doesn't that's a team that doesn't expose the Pistons. They don't have a stretch 4, so we don't have to really worry about that. They play a similar style offense, so it's a good matchup. Milwaukee kind of the same way. Giannis is a nightmare for anybody.
Oh yeah.
So you can't. That's not what you're worried about. Honestly, he's gonna get his. But the rest of that team is kind of meh. Like Chris Middleton, former Piston, by the way, he, I think, could be slowed down by the Pistons. Like, he's not.
I think, honestly, I look at the other side of things. I think Chris Middleton would be an issue for the Pistons in the fact that they're going to put so much pressure on trying to guard guys like Giannis and Eric Bledsoe. Chris Middleton's going to be that guy left open in the corner who's going to hit that dagger 3 in Game 5.
Yeah, but I think that Chris Middleton, although he's bigger, I think Avery Bradley could just mess with him, kind of be that mosquito type player that
I think you might have to rely more on.
They'll have issues with Giannis no matter what, but like you probably won't see Avery Bradley guarding Giannis.
You'll probably see him guarding, I feel like, Eric Bledsoe, and then maybe leave Reggie Bullock to guard like Chris Middleton.
I think I would rather allow Eric Bledsoe to do damage than Chris Middleton.
Really?
As of now. Obviously, Eric Bledsoe is an all-star type player, so he could change that. But, yeah, if you get a playoff round where you have to play Washington or Milwaukee, I think that's a win. And obviously, if they can somehow scoot into, like, a higher seeding and maybe things get wished around, they've played pretty good against Indiana. So if they somehow get...
Indiana's been kind of plummeting a little bit.
Yeah, if something crazy happens where they play Indiana, they'll be all right. But if they play Boston, they're in trouble. If they play Cleveland, they're in trouble. Toronto, they match up okay against, but DeMar DeRozan, the way he's been playing is crazy.
Yeah, and I honestly think you have a puncher's chance in any matchup that's not Cleveland. If you're playing Cleveland, it's over. Pack your bags, go home already. But I want to hammer this out real quick, Joe. Give the people your record prediction for the Pistons in 2018. Stop moving around the subject here, Joe. I need it.
I don't like making predictions, but ESPN had their projected at 45 and 27. Stop looking at me like that.
37.
37. Geez, my math, man. I think they're going to be under that. I think they're going to struggle with these injuries just a little bit, but I think they'll figure it out and they'll round out their season pretty well. I'm going to give them a 42 and 40 overall record.
All right, Joe. We're putting that down. We're marking it down. We're going to check it out. April 2018. I'm going to go on the record here. Pistons, 45 and 37.
Oh, wow. So you just take the projection?
I think that's more of a bold prediction for Pistons in general. Listen.
I don't know if you take bold and projection being
Well, here's the thing.
The same thing.
If the Pistons win 45 games this year, that'll be the most wins for this franchise in a decade. And I think that's got to be a bold prediction, especially with their injuries coming in. Yeah, they're projected 45, but I'm not sure if those projections buy in that Reggie's out for 8 weeks.
All right. I
got them 45-37, fifth in the East. First round series against Washington, they lose. And then Stan Van maybe on the hot seat. We'll see. Now, let's kind of switch gears here, Joe. I want to talk more NBA in general.
Talk about the overall first half.
First half. What are you thinking here?
I think we should do some mid-season awards here.
Ooh.
You know, the end of the season is when they talk about MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, all that stuff. But with media being so heavily in our world these days, they're talking about MVP first game of the year. They're like, oh, who's going to be the MVP?
I talk about it in preseason.
Who's going to be this? Who's going to be that? So let's do a midseason. I think that's fair enough.
Let's do it.
So, Chris, who's your MVP for the first half of the NBA season?
See, this one's it's always tough to pick MVP. You have so many great talents out there, but it's got to be LeBron James. The guy's having his best season of maybe his career at age 33. What are some other guys that have done that? Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. That type of caliber of player, I think it's got to be LeBron James.
Wow, I can't believe we're agreeing on something.
For once.
But yeah, LeBron James is, as much as I don't like him, as much as I can't like Cleveland for being a Detroit fan, LeBron's having, honestly, one of his best seasons. I almost call it his best season ever. And only because he's had a little bit more of an edge to him, which I've never seen him have. It looks like he's a little bit mad, and you see it in the media a little bit. He's kind of been talking and
short. He's a little short,
right? And normally he's a quiet guy. He's kind of self-contained, but he's been a little bit more outspoken. But I mean, people are talking about Harden and Westbrook, especially with Harden being injured. I don't think
that plays a huge role.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get there. Westbrook, talking first half, I don't think we can choose him. But he's getting back to those triple-double numbers of last year. So
he can make a push, yeah.
Right, maybe he could challenge LeBron. But if LeBron keeps this up, I think he's a surefire, which people say it every year that LeBron should win it every year. But this year, I'm saying it, that LeBron should be the MVP.
If Joe's saying it, it means something.
Yeah, that's surprising. I'm going to hint at Durant, too, a little bit, only because I know the team that he plays for, but he's stepped up on his defense, and his team has had some injury issues. I just think he's played well in some of the circumstances, kind of shown that he can lead this team when
I agree
other guys are down.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just hard for me to give an award to a guy that's playing with, 3 Hall of Famers, a 2-time MVP, 1-time unanimous MVP in Steph Curry. I mean, and that's what makes it more difficult for me. Yeah, I get the injuries.
Star-studded.
Yeah, and the bench is phenomenal, to say the least, as well. So that's where I go there. Defensive Player of the Year. Let's jump there. I gotta go Draymond Green. The guy does everything.
Wow, we are 2 for 2 in same picks. So that's surprising. But yeah, Draymond, great player. I want to kind of talk about Ben Simmons and I think KD are actually kind of close. I mentioned it before.
Simmons?
Hey.
We're talking about the dude from Philly who's 10th in the East right now?
I think that if he can he already gets a good amount of steals, and he's long, so he can get some blocks.
But he's also guarding shorter guys because he's playing the point guard position.
Right, and that might give him an advantage, and that's why I don't give it to him as the award, but he's there. And I think KD, with the way he's stepped up on contesting shots, and you kind of saw it last year in the finals when he guarded LeBron and said, hey, this is my guy. I think that's a thing to look at, that KD is on the way. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard would probably be above Draymond or right next to him if he was healthy, but he's not. So
same with a guy like Rudy Gobert, who's been injured for most of the season too.
So first half, I agree. I go to Draymond, and I think you were saying he's like miles above everybody else.
Draymond is in a class of his own, and then there's everybody else. He just does everything. He gets after it defensively. He gets steals, blocks, rebounds. He does it all. Let's jump rookie of the year here, Joe. I'll let you do the honors. Who's your rookie of the year?
This rookie talent pool is incredible, and I'm surprised by it because it's mostly not the top picks. But my rookie was not drafted this year, and that would have to be Ben Simmons. Again, talking about Ben Simmons, you got to watch out for a triple-double every night. Like, that's incredible to say about a rookie. Yeah, he's had some time to be around the NBA, but he's far and above my rookie of the year.
No, I completely agree with you. I think he's a runaway. It's not even close. It's Ben Simmons.
Well, I think it's close.
I think it's Ben Simmons, and everybody else is just chasing him.
You don't think that Donovan Mitchell is right
not
there
even
behind
close.
him?
He's not even close.
See, I think
Donovan Mitchell's having a fantastic season, but I think it's Simmons, like we discussed with Draymond Green. Simmons is in a class of his own when it comes to rookies. And then there's Donovan Mitchell. Then you have guys like Jason Tatum. Mitchell and Tatum, I think, are close, but Simmons is just above everyone.
I think Donovan Mitchell is in a class of his own, but not on Ben Simmons' level, more of a Ben Simmons being an A tier and Donovan Mitchell being a B tier.
See, you're not going to put Tatum in that B tier?
I put him just underneath.
I don't know, man.
Like B minus. And
Dude.
I put him like Tatum is right there with Kyle Kuzma, Lauri Markkanen. But the rookie talent is incredible. You got Dennis Smith, you got De'Aaron Fox. Yeah, he's had some injury issues. Mike James, Jordan Bell. How do the Warriors do it every year? And
why would Chicago sell that draft? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, sometimes GMs just don't really.
You're gonna sell the 38th pick. Yeah, you get $2.5 million.
Let's give them to the Warriors.
But you're in a rebuilding state too. You can
Right.
get a good player at 38.
Mhm.
That makes no sense to me.
And then even Josh Hart has shown for the Lakers that he can ball.
Yeah, I think Josh Hart and Kuzma, those are the two Laker rookies that have just been really well.
Yeah,
been
but
really good.
yeah, I agree. Ben Simmons probably the leader in that pick, but I think Donovan Mitchell is close because Ben Simmons has fallen off just a little bit.
Yep. And let's go most improved here. Now, I think this is closer than more people give it credit. I go Victor Oladipo, slightly nudging out
Okay, I hear you.
the big penguin, Andre Drummond.
What?
Listen to the facts here, Joe. Andre Drummond has made a 22% increase from his career average in the free throw line, which is huge and unheard of for a guy that shoots free throws as poorly as he does. That's a big improvement in itself. He's having a career year rebounding the ball. He's, again, the best offensive rebounder in the game. This will be his 5th straight season doing that. And now he's added the passing game. He's averaging 3.7 assists per game, and he's kind of that hub for the new Pistons offense, that motion offense. He's setting the screens, dribble handoffs to Avery Bradley, Tobias Harris. He's still setting the picks and rolling to the basket, but we're seeing a more dynamic Andre Drummond. That's why I have him slightly below Victor Oladipo. And if Oladipo starts to struggle a little bit and the Pacers sink in the standings, Drummond could be primed to steal some of his votes. That's my thinking.
Wow. I agree with you on Victor Oladipo. Again, this is kind of weird. We're agreeing on awards. But yeah, Victor Oladipo far and above. His injury kind of hurts him. It lets some other guys maybe catch up. But he's had an outstanding season. He's let Indiana fans kind of forget about Paul George. And the best part about Victor Oladipo is, I've said it before, he's an Indiana guy. He went to college there. He gives the fans
The fans love
A
Victor Oladipo.
perfect player to root for that fan base.
I
But
mean, he's even said it too. He says he feels like he's playing in front of his family every single night.
right,
I mean,
which is awesome.
it's good to
for
hear.
a guy.
It's good to hear.
Hopefully he stays loyal. You know, it's hard to see this day and age, but hopefully, I would like to see Indiana do well. It used to be fun watching them and the Pistons battle back in the day. So it'd be nice to have a good little rekindling of that
That
rivalry.
would be awesome. Yeah.
But I don't see you on the Andre Drummond.
Ooh.
I think he's improved. Yes.
Who do you think's behind Victor Oladipo?
But I think that you can put Bradley Beal
Ugh. I feel like we could say this every
in
year
that
with
category. But I think this year, like, he's always been that guy behind John Wall, and he's always been the second piece to it. And this year, I think he's stepped above John Wall, and I think he's playing better than John Wall.
You think
is.
Beal's having a better season
Yes.
than John Wall?
Yes. And part of it is, again, injuries. John Wall was injured. Bradley Beal stepped up. But at times, and this might change, I'm just talking first half, Bradley Beal and Otto Porter have played better than John Wall. And at least been more consistent for the most part. But Beal has, I mean, his numbers have always been good, but I just felt like he made a big enough jump that he could potentially be in the running. Again, I think Oladipo is the winner, but
I mean, another guy you can throw into that mix too, Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, as long as the Knicks kind of stay somewhat relevant, we'll see.
true.
But
And the irrelevant picks would be Aaron Gordon, I think.
yeah,
He's,
that is irrelevant. You're good call on that. Irrelevant.
solid.
No.
Oh, these are guys that need a little bit of love
How can you need love if they're 12 and 25?
because his numbers are crazy improved. I thought Aaron Gordon was going to be a bust. Didn't you think that Aaron Gordon was going to be a bust?
I didn't think he was gonna. I think he was gonna be solid. He was solid. He wasn't. What was he drafted? 2 overall.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a bust in that standpoint, but
Come
he's
on.
definitely bounced back.
You and I both love him. TJ Warren.
Okay, let me throw something your way, Joe. You're talking Aaron Gordon. You're giving these guys T.J. Warren too. You're giving guys love that are just on bad teams.
Yeah, but this is
When-
the most improved player.
But when do you remember the award being given to a player that just was on a terrible team? It doesn't happen. 2016-17, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Bucks playoff team. 15-16, C.J. McCollum, Trailblazers playoff team. 14-15, Jimmy Butler, Bulls playoff team. Joe,
Okay, I get it. I just felt like they needed some love. Another guy.
I understand that.
Another guy that I've always loved, Tyreke Evans.
He's having a big year.
I thought he would be good when he was back on the Pelicans, but it's glad to see him back to what he was before. Yeah, he doesn't have Mike Conley, so he's had a bigger role, but it's good to see, and it's a shame that the Grizzlies are as bad as they are.
Yeah, that's a rough
But
situation.
Those are just some guys that I felt like deserve some love. Okay, now I think we should go on to what, for me, was the hardest award.
Which one's this?
And that's my six-man award.
Oh, this is easy. This is a runaway right here, Joe.
Oh, well, then I probably think I know what you're going to say, but go ahead. You can.
I'll take the floor here. I mean,
lead
the people
this.
know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Lou Williams, the guy's averaging almost 22 points per game off the bench. He was snubbed for the award last year for Eric Gordon. He's having 40-point games almost every other week, which is huge for a Clipper team that was dead in the water a few weeks ago. Now all of a sudden they're getting healthier. Teodosic is back. Blake Griffin just came back, and they're starting to move up the standings, and maybe they will challenge the Pelicans, the Nuggets for one of those lower playoff spots. We'll see as we get closer to the end of the season, but I think that's Sixth Man of the Year, hands down.
I disagree.
You disagree.
He plays.
Joe.
He's started a lot of games, and he plays starter minutes. Okay, I pulled it right up. He's averaging 31.3
minutes doesn't matter. How many games he
minutes
started this
a
year?
game. So that's starters minutes.
Manu Ginobili was playing starters minutes when he was winning the award.
Right. But I'm just going based off of my idea of six-man, which is like the guy that comes off the bench and leads that second unit. And Lou Williams plays with starters a lot. And yes, he probably will win, and he's probably deserving of it. I don't disagree in that aspect. But again, I'm a guy that likes to give love to the people that play on smaller teams, more the guys that are the unsung heroes. So I'm gonna throw out a couple names. I don't really have a clear-cut winner, but if he was healthy the whole season, I would probably pick Nikola Mirotic. That guy's played outstanding after getting punched in the face.
I mean, him and Porsche, that 1-2 punch, right?
Yeah, oh man,
pun intended.
I hear you. Another one being Will Barton for Denver.
That's a good one.
He's had some starts, so
I mean,
I don't like completely take that away from somebody, but
as long as you come off the bench the majority of the season, you're eligible for the award.
Another one, Wolverine, Karis LeVert. He's a great, solid all-around player. I like to see that. I didn't think he would be that good, but he's played pretty solid for the Nets. I know, again, they're a bad team, but yeah, I got to show him some love.
Show some Wolverine love. I like it.
Domantas Sabonis. I think that guy could be a starter.
Starter? I thought you were going to say star, and I was about to just pump the brakes on there.
His dad was a star.
His dad is an all-time great, but
yeah, so
there's
blood in there.
There is blood in that body. Yes,
so,
you are right about that.
He could be a good. I don't know. He's a good player.
Before we start fighting over this Sabonis stuff, let's jump into Coach of the Year, Joe. Who you got, Coach of the Year?
I think this is another runaway. I don't know how you can argue it. Brad Stevens, number 1 in the East. They lost, arguably their number 2 player the first game of the season. They're leading the league in defense, and they're just playing great. And he's a young coach still, a young coach.
It's hard to believe that guy's been in Boston for 5 years.
Yeah, and hasn't looked back.
I mean, if you remember, too, kind of that first season there in Boston, Rajon Rondo was giving him fits, and they finally shipped him out of town. But ever since then, you haven't heard any turmoil coming out of that Boston locker room ever. And
it's pretty incredible. They are, I don't know, maybe it's because he's a young coach, they're a young team, and it just kind of meshes. They get each other. They bought into the system. That's always important. And you got just a lot of good role players. You have Kyrie kind of leading the charge, Al Horford. So there's a couple like veteran guys in there. And
2
then you
former
just have
Pistons too.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. But you got scrappy players. That's always something that you want. You got these scrappy young guys that are biting at the bone, that are trying to just get everything that they can on this team. And you got to attribute some of it to Brad Stevens and the way that he's coached.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. I think it's hands down another runaway so far, Brad Stevens.
Yeah, but I mean, I like to throw names out there again.
I understand you.
Tom Thibodeau.
Names. Tibbs has done a good job in Minnesota.
Which I don't think anybody thought he wouldn't.
Yeah.
He's a great coach overall.
And they add Jimmy Butler too, Jeff Teague, some veterans.
They have more talent.
They added 2 former Chicago Bulls that he played with him. So.
And another guy that was kind of on the hot seat for a little while, Dwayne Casey. He's turned it around for Toronto.
They were in Toronto for a while too.
You're right. From being number 1 team in the East, what was it, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
2015. And then kind of having as far as Toronto goes, a disappointing season last year.
Losing in the second round, yeah.
Right. And then they've made a pretty strong case lately to make another run. They could overtake the Celtics coming into the new year.
I mean, it's possible. They've been right there. I mean, media's not giving them any credit for what they're doing north of the border. I mean, DeMar DeRozan's having a heck of a season. He's added 3-point shot to his arsenal now, and that makes it just so much harder for you to guard that guy. And then you have guys coming off the bench like Delon Wright, who had last night a career-high 25 points, career-high 13 assists. And just these role players, a rookie, OG Anunoby, coming from Indiana, he's starting for them, and he's playing tremendously. And you have a guy like Norman Powell coming off the bench. So Toronto's a great pick there. Another guy that I think could be in line for the award for teams that just weren't expected to do much is Mike Malone in Denver. I mean, they're 19
that's
and 6.
Actually a good pick. I kind of forgot about that.
They're 19 and 16. They're 6th in the West. That's a big thing. So
yeah, with injury issues.
They
don't have Paul Millsap.
Yeah, and that was their big free agent signing. Jokic has looked fantastic. Jamal Murray stepping into his own. And that's even Moutier, too, hasn't done much. So we'll see as we go forward there. You got any other coaches on your radar there, Joe?
No, not really. That's pretty much it. All right, so we're gonna talk about how the first half of the season has gone for each team, and I'm just gonna do like a little blurb of the top teams in each conference. So the big thing about Boston, their defense. Toronto, strong home court advantage. DeRozan stepping up. Cleveland, it's IT time. He looked good. It's been one game, but
He did look
he's
good.
back, so that's a little bit spooky. Washington, surprise has been Bradley Beal, not John Wall. Milwaukee, just a scary team. They're long. I don't know.
I mean, Bledsoe's probably going to come into his own a little bit more, too,
Right.
down the stretch. And then you have a deep bench. You got Brogdon, Thon Maker.
Right.
So,
They're just a spooky team.
yep.
Detroit, I just put question marks because I have no idea what they're going to do.
I think that team might be the most primed to fall. I mean, with all the injuries that have happened, that could be a team that drops.
Yeah. The Pistons, I think they'll be fine, but
Hopefully.
it's just kind of up in the air right now. Miami, the big thing for me was Wayne Ellington, actually a surprise. He's been shooting lights out recently. Indiana, their issue has been injuries. Miles Turner not looking as good as he has. Oladipo. New York, the unicorn. Come on, he's always gonna fight your team.
I mean, he's struggled a little bit since
Right.
coming back from injury. But
Yeah.
I know he's been
But
solid.
that team's always a little bit spooky too. Philadelphia, the process, I'm not seeing it.
Are you trusting it, though? Or are you trusting it, Joe?
I think I trust it, but I'm not seeing it
Okay.
as maybe you might have thought this year.
I'm still
But
trusting it.
they're still a scary team. They could still sneak into the bottom half of the East. Going out of the West, Golden State is Golden State, and they got Steph Curry back. Rockets, they don't have James Harden, but they'll be fine. The Spurs, they got Kawhi Leonard back. Their defense, they have crazy home court advantage. Minnesota, they've gone on a little bit of a run. I know they lost last night to Brooklyn, which is crazy, but they look pretty good. OKC, also kind of rolling. Portland, they're just doing Portland. They're hanging around kind of in the bottom half of the West. They can always kind of take a team with Damian Lillard and McCollum. Denver, kind of a surprise for me, even with some injuries, but they're playing pretty good. Gary Harris had a big game last night.
Yeah, he did.
And
He's
then,
been playing well. He's been playing
yeah.
well. Coach Mike Malone's been doing a fantastic job with that team.
Right. They got some good depth. Going on to New Orleans, inconsistent, but they're kind of a spooky team with DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis. And then you look at the Clippers. I don't think they're going to do anything. Yeah, they got Blake Griffin back, but DeAndre Jordan's pretty much on the trading block. So who knows what they're going to do. And then Utah, really underperforming, I think. And, I mean, they've been bitten by some injuries too, but I don't know. That's
They're
kind
definitely
of my
playing. They're definitely playing lower than their
right.
expectations coming into the year.
Yeah.
So
And so going into my overall biggest surprises of the year so far has been our Detroit Pistons. They're exceeded expectations by a long shot. And I kind of mentioned it earlier. The rookie talent pool that we have this year is crazy.
no, it's been a great rookie pool. Especially we've had a couple subpar ones as of late. So it's nice to see rookies coming in making an impact right away. I mean, you can go down the list even for a guy like Luke Kennard, 12th pick in the draft. He's been solid. Stan Van Gundy never plays rookies. He's playing this guy. He's playing big minutes. I mean, that says a lot about this rookie class.
Right. Biggest disappointments of this season so far. Touched on it. The Sixers, Pelicans, Thunder, they've kind of pulled it back together. Jazz and Grizzlies, teams that have made moves that you'd think they'd be good. Grizzlies just being that solid playoff team and just being nowhere near it this year. And the other big disappointment is injuries. You've seen Gordon Hayward go down first game of the season. Guys that have got moved, like D'Angelo Russell. Stars like Kawhi Leonard, Isaiah Thomas.
Now James Harden
now. Mike Conley. Guys that have had kind of breakout seasons like Nikola Vucevic. He's out. Big guy like Gobert. So injuries have kind of hurt this part of the season.
See, I almost put injuries on mine as well, but I feel like we can say this every year. I feel like
Yeah.
every year it's always why injuries do this to the NBA
Right.
season.
It just seemed
every
like
year.
it hit a lot of bigger stars this year.
No, I hear it. I understand that. You got any more disappointments there, Joe?
No, I think that's all the disappointments.
Yeah, I mean, my list is kind of close to yours. Biggest surprises got to be Boston with how they've bounced back from the Hayward injury. I have the Pistons on there as well. Nuggets 6th in the Western Conference right now. Mike Malone's done a tremendous job with that team.
Yeah, big
And
surprise.
they're just a bunch of young guys playing the right way, and that's what's awesome about it. Nikola Jokic has been tremendous, just passing the ball, playing on the block. His post moves have been tremendous. And then you have guys like Kenneth Faried who's buying in, coming off the bench, which is awesome to see for that team playing well. And then players that are kind of the biggest surprise, you got Victor Oladipo making that jump that nobody saw coming. Ben Simmons being the real deal. And then Donovan Mitchell. That guy is far and above.
Not a Piston.
Yeah, he's not a Piston,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I said it.
Disappointments, I got Orlando plummeting after that 8-4 start.
Yep, I forgot about that one.
Philly sinking. They're 10th in the East right now. So we'll see if they can bounce back. The Hornets. What happened with Charlotte? They got Kemba, Dwight playing well, and all of a sudden they're still 13-25.
I forgot. Buzz City is usually my team, and they not good. Have not looked good.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. And then we have, like you touched on it, Utah. Their injuries have kind of derailed their season as well. And I'm glad this happened last night. A player that's been a big disappointment for me. His season's been a little bugged with injuries as well. But Hassan Whiteside. The dude got bodied by Boban Marjanovic last night.
Yeah.
He was the best center on the court. And that's saying a bunch for a guy that got paid a ton of money to be an All-NBA center. And I believe he went out in the first half, 2 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 fouls against Boban.
Yeah, he played like 17 minutes, I think.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And rounding it out, just the drama in Memphis, which is tough to see. Like you said, you got the coach fired. Gasol's not happy. Injuries. That team could look a lot different next year.
Right.
Those are my biggest surprises and biggest disappointments.
All right. Well, that was a successful first episode. Hopefully next episode we'll start getting into getting closer to All-Star stuff. So from ONTV's The Local Voice, this was Views from the Sideline with Joey and Chris.
See ya.